Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So this past weekend, we actually got the brand new January 1st OCG Forbidden and Limited list. And I know this isn't the TCG Banlist, however, I always like to make a video comparing the OCG list to the TCG, simply because sometimes the changes that the OCG makes do translate over here into the TCG. So I think it actually matters a lot to kind of talk about this to an extent. Even though our formats are a bit different, I always like to cover the OCG list just because it is interesting to see the comparisons and to see that even though our formats are different, they're actually very similar in a lot of ways as well, because when you actually go and look over here at our, let's say, meta breakdown for the OCG's format, you can see right here, what are their top decks? They have Thunder Dragon, they have Orcus, they have Sky Striker, they have Salamangreat, Pendulum's up there, they have Subterror, they have Altergeist, Spiral's in there, but they have more support because they have cards off the ban list, as well as the fact that they have Magician's Souls, which we don't have yet. And then here's another meta chart just for you guys to look at as well. This is all brought to you by Road of the King, if you want to check them out. Again, Orcus, Thunder Dragon, Salamangreat. There's no Striker on this list, but I assume it's in the others. Danger Dark World's also a deck. We'll cover that in a bit. So it's just interesting to kind of see how their format is actually pretty identical to ours, even though our card pools are a little bit different. So let's go ahead and get into their ban list. So first and foremost, banned is Azathoth and Gumblar. Yeah, they still had Gumblar legal after all this time, which is just like insane to me. Like that card is definitely not okay. And it's kind of one of the reasons why people are playing this Danger Dark World list, just because it's easy to just Gumblar loop your opponent. So now that Gumblar's banned, I'm not sure if that deck's still going to be playable nearly as much, because we have all those cards here in the TCG as well, and yet no one plays it. You also were able to spam Azathoth with it in addition to that, so we've seen our own version of like Danger Dark World FTK, and now that Gumblar's banned, I don't really think they're going to be doing that. We still have Azathoth legal here in the TCG. It's used in decks like Lunalight, Orcus, and that's pretty much it. It might see like some niche play in other places as well, but honestly, I don't think people care if this card gets banned. I think it's definitely, you know, for the better, but at the same time, I think it's like the fact that you're not doing it on your opponent's turn when you had the Phantom Knight's rank up card, that was a little bit extreme, but overall, I don't think anyone's really going to complain about these hits. I think these are perfectly fine. Now, when we get to the limited cards, oh boy, okay, so at 1 now in the OCG, we have Zodiac Trident and the Beginning of the End. So quickly, Beginning of the End, this is a hit to the Danger Dark World deck. Once again, no other deck was really playing this card, and the Beginning of the End, excuse me, is actually just it's ridiculous because you're able to draw 3 from a single card, and Danger Dark World is so quickly able to fill its graveyard with 7 dark, so it's really not that difficult to resolve this card. I actually don't even think this card's once per turn in addition to that, which is even crazier, but I digress. This going to 1, I think is fine. I don't even think they'd have to do that after they banned Gumblar, but it's just a check against that deck, I guess. And then Trident. Yeah, Trident is legal in the OCG. This is interesting because now I don't ever think Broad Bull can come back, because Broad Bull, as powerful as that card is, just enables far too many combos and just enabled a lot of like degenerate strategies that even after, like, you know, Zodiac was not really in its like prime, which it pretty much always was, but like people are using Broad Bull outside of Zoo just for other degenerate strategies, and I really don't think that's okay. Trident going to 1 though is interesting because this makes Zodiac splashable to a degree if you really want to play that 1 copy of Trident in addition to whatever combo your deck can do. But like, again, like, is pure Zoo going to be viable with 1 lone copy of Trident? Sure, you can like resurrect the Trident continuously. Is that going to be enough to bring Zodiac back into the game? I'm not really sure. Zodiac in the context of like Link summoning is really interesting because the deck can actually do a lot to Link climb. There's a lot of really powerful extenders in the Zodiac archetype, like Zodiac Barrage, which like Barrage in tandem with the Draco cards, like maybe like we'll see like a bit of a resurgence of like true Draco Zodiac to a degree. I'm not really sure, but this is one of the things to look out for the TCG, because if their OCG is bringing this back, the TCG might bring it back too, and I don't know if this is okay. I think 1 Trident is fine. We'll see. I mean, it's one of those ones that it could be just an absolute nightmare, or it could just be okay. Again, Trident's a very powerful card, but if you only have 1 of it, if you're trying to continuously recur it, you need to be basically playing pure Zoo if you want to pull that off. But if you just want to have it as like basically support for just being able to access Barrage in your deck to kind of just synergize with the rest of your archetype, and then you get like a Trident at the end of your combo, that seems pretty okay too. So, this is what concerns me. So for some reason, the OCG decided to semi-limit a total of, is this 12 cards? It's 12, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 cards. Why? Why are you semi-limiting 14 cards? We were so close to the semi-limited list. I actually don't know what the OCG semi-limited list looks like, to be perfectly fair, but at least in the TCG, we are so close to the semi-limited list being absolutely gone, and yet the OCG comes and adds 14 cards to their semi-limited list. This makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, okay, let's start going through. So we have Altergeist Meluseek. Okay, like, I guess, like, this is just such a weird one. Like, okay, now you have 2 Meluseek instead of 3. Sure, like, the deck's still playable. I don't think one less Meluseek really is going to do that. It's like, it's all these, like, weird consistency hits to, like, decks. So, like, okay, then you have Galatea, Harp Horror, and I guess I'm going to talk about Mathematician here as well, because, like, those kind of all go together. Let me just double check here. Allure of Darkness, technically, as well. So, like, those 4 cards are pretty much all hits at Orcust, but, like, Orcust is still playable, it just has like a lot less consistency. I don't really think 2 Galatea does anything because the 3rd was kind of like extraneous. Like, yeah, if you needed it, it's cool, but like 2 is perfectly fine. You can also recycle it with Dingirsu, or Long Girsu, so it's not like it matters. 2 Harp, you're not going to open it as much, but you're just sending it off like Mathematician or Armageddon Knight or Dark Refer anyway, so like it doesn't really hurt the consistency of the deck all that much. It's typically being sent. It just kind of affects if you can extend with it by discarding it out of your hand. Deep Sea Diva going to 2. I think this is because they actually just announced some support for Deep Sea Diva getting like its whole new archetype. And this also gives like a boost to water decks, so that's pretty cool. Maybe there'll be like a resurgence of Mermail Atlantean once the new Diva support comes out, because there's a card that now searches Deep Sea Diva, which is pretty neat. Baby Sarasaurus going to 2. Fine. Like, I mean, this is at 3 in the TCG, and like, it's perfectly okay. Tour Guide going to 2. Again, it's at 3 in the TCG. Oh no, we only have it at 1. Excuse me. So this will be going to 2. I think it's okay. It's like, it's a very powerful normal summon. I don't think it's going to ruin the game by any stretch of the imagination. Unicorn going to 2. I was actually predicting this for the TCG Banlist, that Unicorn is going to go to 2. They've been just slowly bringing back Necros support piece by piece and like safeguarding it using the semi-limited list. So that makes sense that was going to be on here. That was like, to me, the one card that would be on the semi-limited list, if any. And then let's scroll down here. So then we have Thunder Dragon Dark, or excuse me, Roar. Thunder Dragon Roar is on here. I think they already have Colossus at 1. I think they have Hawk at 1, and now they're putting Roar to 1 as well. Again, we saw in this one meta chart here, Thunder was actually at the top for 1 week, and then Thunder's still at the top here. So this is just another check against the deck, I suppose. Salamangreat Circle going to 2. OCG actually has this at 3, so they're actually bringing this down a bit. It's at 1 here in the TCG, and Salamangreat's still perfectly playable and still tier 1. Mind Control going to 2, though, is a little bit interesting. I actually predicted this card would take a hit on the ban list, because this card is very, very powerful, and I feel that the fact that it's not once per turn, and really just the fact what this card can do and the dynamic it creates, I wouldn't be surprised to see this card make its way onto the ban list. It used to be on the ban list at one point, and now it's made its way back on for the OCG. So just an interesting side note for us TCG players. Multi-Roll going to 2. It's at 1 here in the TCG. Striker wasn't even really on here. It was like a sliver on this part, but like I think it's in the others on this chart here. So Striker, they already have significant hits in the OCG as well. So again, I wouldn't be surprised. But again, we already have a hit here, but I think we're going to be having Striker hit even more than that. Allure of Darkness, again, we expected this. And then Red Reboot's an interesting one. I didn't think Red Reboot was like really an issue, but apparently the OCG thinks it is. Red Reboot's just one of those very powerful countermeasures against the back row decks, and it's at 2 now. So I guess like if you're a back row player, like you can rejoice because now your opponent's gonna have 10% less chance to see a Red Reboot. Seems pretty good. But I like, why? Like, some of these cards just don't seem problematic to me, or don't necessarily like fix anything in the context of their format. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, it's just weird balancing here, just very odd balancing. And then lastly, we have the unlimits, which there's only 6 of. The fact that there's more semi-limits than unlimits is just unreal. So Shadow Mist, that's fine. It's at 3 here in the TCG. Same thing for Mechaba. That's perfectly okay. Kaiju Slumber, same thing. Hasn't really done anything. Chain Strike, it's Chain Burn. Like, no one's really playing Chain Burn anymore. I mean, like, you're playing Mystic Mind Burn instead if you are going to go that route. Reasoning to 3. cool. Like, Infernoid players, like, rejoice. And then Draco Face-Off. That's actually kind of an interesting one. I don't know if that really has a huge impact. I know that's a very powerful card, but again, it's one of those things that might be a little bit past its prime now, but maybe for playing Pendulum, you can find a way to take advantage of it. Overall, I think their ban list is very interesting. Their choices for the semi-limited list are very perplexing to me, but for the most part, I think this is interesting in the context of when you're looking at it of how it's going to translate here to the TCG. I'm very interested to see how cards like Trident and Mind Control are going to be hit, if at all, or if they're going to even come off for that matter in the context of Trident. I think that's rather interesting. I'm happy that Gumblar and Azathoth are banned in the OCG because I think those cards have been out for far too long by their standards. And then when you go back to like the limited list, or excuse me, the semi-limits, again, it's just really weird to me. Like, if you're really looking to kind of like curb the power of some of these decks, you can just limit one of these cards, or you can just leave them at 3. I don't think any of these need to be semi-limited because it's like, it's not really going to do enough to curb the power of these decks and bring everything else back in check. I think you have to be a little bit harder on the top meta decks if you're really trying to boost the other decks up by bringing the power level of the top decks down. But guys, those are just my thoughts. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about your opinions of the OCG's January 1st Forbidden and Limited list. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. So thank you so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always, subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content, and if you found this video informative, consider supporting me on Patreon, becoming a YouTube channel member, because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.